Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE pledging trillions of dollars. We are talking minerals, military, energy, and massive U.S. investments over the next decade. President Trump is playing power broker, turning oil money into jobs, manufacturing, and national security. It's direct investment to most Americans. And it's all pretty fascinating. All morning, what I've been hearing before the president and throughout this speech is that this isn't as much about politics as it is about business. Howard Lutnick is there, and you just saw him moments ago. Steve, I want to get your take on some of the things that he talked about, the investment and the CEOs who were in the audience. At one point, he was looking for Jensen Huang from NVIDIA. $600 billion coming in from the Saudis. That's what they've pledged. He's saying, I want to make it $1 trillion. He wants money, again, back to the comments he made a couple of weeks ago, to flow into the superstore that is the United States.
Well, I think what you see in Saudi Arabia with some of the CEOs there reminds you of the old Woody Allen thing, success is 80% showing up. And they knew this was the place to show up. And so these wonderful deals have been announced. The follow-through will be key. And one of the things I think it's going to spur in the future is I think you're going to see new apprentice programs here in the United States by companies taking a lot of these men who have not been in the workforce. It doesn't take a lot of training to get them into a lot of these job categories. So I think you could see long-term, something that hasn't been much mentioned, labor force participation rate finally going in the right direction instead of the long-term shrinkage. So capital, but also, though, as the economists will never cease reminding us, inflows of capital mean probably trade deficits. So there's a lot of misunderstanding about trade deficits, and I'm glad they're finally pulling back and going behind the scenes and cutting some real deals with China and hopefully with a number of other countries. It
was a long speech, and he covered a broad range of topics. Dagan, what stood out to you?
How dramatically different this America is from the one that Joe Biden tried to destroy. Our relationship with Saudi Arabia, we turned our backs on Saudi Arabia, whether it was kowtowing to Iran, allowing Iran to sell $200 billion in oil to China, where Saudi Arabia strengthened its ties with China and Russia. Saudi Arabia was entertaining de-dollarization and linking up with the BRICS nations. All Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states want modernization. So they want access to U.S. technology and investment. And President Trump delivers it in person with the CEOs. And this has been a critical relationship since, and President Trump mentioned it in his speech, since Franklin Delano Roosevelt met with Saudi Arabia's king in 1945. And it's just astonishing how far President Trump has taken the United States back into the world and leading on the world stage in just a matter of months, and how far Joe Biden and his climate crusading, ashamed of the United States, cronies took the United States down a rabbit hole to hell, quite frankly.
And all of this comes on the back of a string of really good news for the markets, Taylor. So we got the news about the pause with China on tariffs and the reduction in tariffs and the continued negotiations moving forward, a peace deal between India and Pakistan. We had the return of the last American hostage in Gaza yesterday, and he takes the stage and covers all of these issues and is focused on business. You've got a tech rally on your hands, by the way. It's UNH that's dragging the Dow down.
Yeah, I mean, so let's talk about that, right? Because when we think about why we're in Saudi Arabia, the New York Times editorial board actually put it pretty nicely. This is a totally different Saudi Arabia than it was in 2017. This is a country that's now focused on renewable energy. They're one of the largest investors in renewable energy because they know they can't rely on their oil reserves anymore. They're invested in AI. Jackie, when you talk about tech, it's Google, Datavolt, which is the Saudi Arabian company, Oracle, Salesforce, AMD, Uber, all committing committing to investing $80 billion in both the U.S. and Saudi Arabia. It's GE who's exporting gas turbines to Saudi Arabia. It's a defense deal of $142 billion. They're accepting Boeing planes. So there's just so much when you think about the opportunities, you know, to Dagan's point, with AI, with technology, if there's a good partnership between the U.S. and Saudis.
Right?
The president will never get credit for this, but that was an amazing speech. He threw down the gauntlet where he had to, particularly with Iran. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, he painted a picture of possibility for the Middle East I've never heard any other president paint. I mean, that was truly extraordinary. Look, he's such a good salesman. He said to the Middle East, you want to lead in business, in technology, in culture, in commerce? Those are the exact words he used. We will do it with you. We are in a golden age. You can have a golden age. There's only one person on the globe. There's only one person who could give that speech and do it with that kind of force. And it was him. That was totally extraordinary. Everyone's talking about the follow through. I can't wait to see what kind of follow-through comes from this.
I'll just make a quick comment before we go to break, and it's that the Democrats actually like to see the Middle East in disarray because it furthers their overall agenda. President Trump is one of the first presidents in a long time that has made such progress there. He did it during his first term, and he is doing it again during his second term as well.